What's up, guys? We are going to talk about two-stroke engines, what their role is, how they work, and what the individual parts actually do. So there's our car over here. That is essentially the same thing. It's a little different, okay? You can't really compare the two together because a two-stroke is different than a four-stroke. However, they are kind of the same, okay? They just do things differently. So we're going to start off with the actual motor itself, the block. If you don't know anything about motors, you're gonna find out right now. So when you hear the word V6, V4, V3, V whatever, right? All that means is there's 6 cylinders. There's a 6 right here, that means there's 6 cylinders. If you don't know what a cylinder is, if I put a line right here where my finger's at, above that line is 1 cylinder. That's 1 individual cylinder. Below that line, there's 2 individual cylinders. If I put my finger here, the bottom one's another cylinder. Boom. Well, I guess I should cut it, right? Middle one's a cylinder as well. There's 6 cylinders. If you don't know what a cylinder is, well, I guess I should say if you don't know what a cylinder does. A cylinder, all a cylinder is it's basically a hole, okay? A big hole. Inside of that cylinder, the cylinder actually does absolutely nothing other than hold compression, and that's kind of where a little bit of gas is, held. But the key here is there's a piston inside of this cylinder. There's a piston inside this cylinder. There's a piston inside this cylinder, and same over here. So the piston is what creates the power. That piston is locked, not locked, it's attached. And all it's doing when this flywheel is cranking, right, or when the motor's turned on, that piston in every cylinder is going back and forth, just like this. It's not going up, it's not going down, it's going this way. If I were to take the spark plug out and I were to hand turn this engine, you could see the piston moving, okay? It's going like this. Now, they're all moving at the same time. And when an engine is on, it's spinning the flywheel really fast. That piston is moving in there really quickly, okay? Whew. Now, if I want to go fast in the boat, I'm going to give it a bunch of throttle, right? It's going to increase the timing, which is that blue thing right there, and I'll get into that in a second. And all of a sudden, more gas is getting thrown into that cylinder. That piston is popping really quickly. It's going super fast. And that's where the power is created, okay? Pretty much the piston is going to travel from the end of here to the front of here, okay? When it's at the end, right, it wants to get close to that spark plug. So it's naturally going to come back this way, close to the spark plug. All of a sudden, that spark plug's going to fire. There's going to be a spark. A little bit of gas is going to be there. It's going to light, and all of a sudden, that piston gets thrown back to the back of the engine really quickly and back and forth. That's where your power comes from. The piston's really important. It's also very important for the cylinder to have good compression, okay? If there's not good compression, your motor's not going to run great. So you can check the compression in every cylinder. You want to be within 10%. If this says 100, which is low, I mean, it's low, it'll run decent, but it's not going to run like it was new. You don't want this one to be below 10. It'll still run if it's below, if this one's at 80 and this one's at 100, it'll still run. It's just you're going to lose a lot of performance. Now, let's get into the actual motor and the parts when you crank that key. I'm going to start from the top because this is where it happens. When I turn that key up there, it's going to start from up here. So you see these 2 wires, positive. Well, I'm not going to say that yet. There's a positive and a negative. The battery's over here. That's where the other side of these cables are running to. Anyways, this is negative. Okay, you see how that's on ground? You see how there's a black wire coming from it? That's how you know it's negative. You see how this one, there's red wires coming from it? That's how you know it's from positive. But look how this is a different part and this is a different part, okay? When I turn that key, This is grounded, right? So it's going to this, it wants to find the power, so it's going straight into here. This is called a starter solenoid. It's transferring the power to a bunch of different little things. This red cable, it's leaning, it's coming out of here straight to the starter. It's going to crank the engine. The starter's going to lift up. It's going to crank the engine. Now, there's underneath that flywheel, there's a blue thing, but above that blue thing, you can kind of see it right there. See that yellow wire? There's 2 yellow wires. That's the stator, okay? The stator is a big circle ring, and it's got little copper wires running all the way around it. That is creating a voltage because there's also magnets underneath that flywheel. The magnets are going to be hard to see. You can't see them, but there's 6 magnets under there. When this is spinning super fast, it's creating a voltage from the magnets through the stator down through the timer base, which is the blue thing. There's wires coming under there, okay? It's going straight to this. That's called a power pack. That thing is really important, okay? And the only role this power pack has is it distributes the power. That's why it's called a power pack. It's essentially a pack. It looks like a pack, right? But it's distributing the power to the individual cylinders. There's 3 wires coming from here, right? That's coming from the pack. There's 3 wires coming from here, right? That's coming from the pack. Each one of these wires is going to a different cylinder, and that is right there. This is called the coil, okay? So the power goes through this side. This coil is just a piece of rubber, plastic type thing. There's a piece of metal into a coil in there, and it's pretty much looping that charge all the way down, all the way down, all the way down until it gets right here. It goes through here. This is called spark plug wire. Goes into your spark plug, fire, okay? Now, if you don't really know engines, these engines are not hard engines to work on. You just have to know how it works, okay? This thing right here, there's another one on this side. This is called a thermostat. Thermostats are extremely important, and you have to understand your car, my car over there, it cools down because it has Freon in it, okay? Coolant. It cools the engine down. When an engine is running, it gets super hot, okay? It needs something to cool it down. Because this doesn't have coolant, it has to take another form of to cool the engine, the block, right? That's where the water from the ocean comes into play. It's gonna pump up that water through the lower unit, through up. It's gonna get to right here. Now it's gonna keep pumping because there's a water pump in the lower unit pumping water constantly through the engine to cool it. That water is gonna fill up this side of the block, okay? It's gonna get to right here, the thermostat. This thermostat is originally closed, okay? When that water gets really hot, this engine is gonna run at about 190 degrees. When that thermostat it senses the water is the right temperature, it's gonna open the thermostat, which is gonna cause the water to flow through this tube, through the poppet valve, all the way across to then cool this side of the engine. But you have to understand, look, it has another thermostat here. Your thermostats can be stuck in the closed position. If they are, you will blow your power head. Check your thermostats. To check them, you take them out, you put them in boiling water. If you see them, if you visually see them moving, that means they're good. But make sure when you get them, they're closed, and then when you warm them up, they open. So let's go. Actually, let me go back over here. This thing, all that is a choke, okay? Choke solenoid. When I go to cold start this engine, I'm gonna choke the key, push it in. If you hear a clicking noise, that means it's working. Fuel pump, I guess it's pretty self-explanatory. Starter. This side of the engine is very simple. You got your shift cables here, there's 2 of them. One controls throttle, one controls the gear. Forward, reverse, neutral, right? This one is throttle, because if you follow this up, it's connected straight to your throttle, like the carburetors. The bottom one is the shift, like the actual gear, okay? Right now it's in neutral. When it's pointed flatly down like this, it's in neutral. If it's that way, it's reverse. If it's that way, it's forward. This is just an air intake. It, you know, if you look in there, you can see air travels through there. Now, another important thing to understand about these motors is when this thing is running, just because you're, let's say you're in neutral and you're running it, right? You need something. The block is creating the power, right? But you need another device to actually take that power and do something with it. Use it, right? Convert it to something else to actually make you go, right? That's where the lower unit comes in. That's essentially a transmission of a car, okay? Same thing. That has a transmission. This has a transmission, but that transmission is a lower unit, right? So, the biggest thing you have to understand with two strokes is they're simple. What I just showed you might sound like a lot. It's not a lot. They're easy to work on. All the parts are right here, okay? However, if you don't know motors, this is a 225 horsepower engine. This should push my 26-foot boat about 40 miles an hour, a little bit below 40. If I had only one person in it, it'd probably do 40. But usually with 4 or 5 people in it, it does about 35, 36. So when you understand that, this is a big engine, okay? 225 horsepower. If I gave it full throttle and it's only going 10 miles an hour, there's a problem, okay? It is not working properly. If you experience something like that, make sure your cylinders are all getting spark. There's a video on my channel, how to do it. Watch it, try it. Let's say I unplug all these spark plug wires. If I go turn on the key right now, this motor will start. It will, and it will sound pretty decent because two-strokes are loud. They are noisy, loud engines. However, let's say I didn't know that these were all unplugged. I take it to the boat dock, I go to drive it, and it doesn't go fast. It's missing 3 important cylinders. 3 pistons are not working properly because they're not getting spark. So it can't convert that power. Understand, if you are having power loss issues, check your spark, okay? Check it. Also, not a bad idea to check your compression in every cylinder. There's another video on my channel how to do that. But anyways, guys, that is literally how a two-stroke works. Hope you guys liked the video. I'll see you next time.